Okay, could everyone have a seat, please? It's now 6:30, and we're going to start this portion of our board meeting. If everyone, I'm now calling this meeting to order. If everyone could stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It always pays just to use your recess voice. Okay, the first portion of the meeting is about the proposed teacher contract, so I will turn that over to Dr. Arthur. Do you want to do it now? Oh, okay, you can do that. A little switch. We have an exciting award that we want to give now. So I would like to introduce Dawn Bias, who is president of the Quarterback Club, and she's going to be giving the SQA Community Spirit Award. So welcome, Dawn.
I'm Dawn Bias. I'm a parent of a senior, which is rough. Real rough. Our Teaching Quarterback Club started a couple years ago. Parents trying to come up with extra money to get the boys what they needed, equipment what they needed, snack packs when they're on the road, try and fill in the gaps that were there that needed some filling in. We've also tried to pull a lot of community spirit out in people. So this year we started something new with sectionals, and we had a window decorating contest. We had I believe we had 9 businesses that participated, 8 clubs that decorated those windows. We had Super Sports, decorated by the freshman cheerleaders, Candy Kitchen by the Red Blue Crew, Los Reyes by the Robotics Club, Keller's Office Supply, New Start Home Realty, was the National Honor Society, Waffle Witch, the junior varsity cheerleaders, Tom Fiddlery, the movie club, H&R Block was the varsity cheerleaders, and Charlie's Drive-In was Jobs of America graduates. There was voting done, and we need to fix the year. The winner of the first annual SQA, that's Super Quick Artisans Community Spirit Award, goes to New Start Home Realty. So they'll hang on to that for next year, and then it'll travel to the next business that wins.
Thank you, Dawn. And I want to say it's so neat to see such a great crowd here. I'm so excited to see everyone here, and we're here for a great reason. And I will turn the meeting over to Dr. Arthur to run about the contract.
Thank you, Debbie. Hello, everyone. Board, thank you for being here. I just want to remind everyone that this meeting is an informational meeting where I'm sharing information, Shannon and I are sharing information with the board, and they will be asking questions of us most likely about some of the content of the contract that we're proposing. This is this is meeting 2 of 3. We held the first meeting in September, which was a meeting that was required before we started bargaining, and that was to give the community an opportunity to come forward and make any comments that they might have about the contract process and things that they may want to see or may not want to see, et cetera. It was an opportunity to give feedback to the board regarding bargaining. So that happened back in September, as I recall, ish. And here we are in our second meeting. A lot has happened between those times. I'm going to say a quick thanks. I'm not going to name names today. I'm going to wait until the next meeting to do that, if that's okay with Ms. Adams. But I would like to thank the bargaining teams both for MCTA and for the school district. We have some really hardworking people who really rolled their sleeves up and over a couple of meals worked out what I think is a really nice package that I'm super proud of for our teachers. And I think we all are collectively pretty proud of. And hopefully after today, I can put this forth to the board, and here in a few days, we're voting on it, and we can move forward with operationalizing this. So this is meeting 2 of 3. Again, today is for the board actually to ask questions of us and for us to answer any questions that they might have about what's been put together and what the tentative agreement is. And then after that step, the Teachers Association has a couple of things they need to do on their end. By statute, we are required to wait 72 hours before we ask the board to officially vote on the contract. So tonight, again, is questions, 72 hours or further out, at least 72 hours, we will hold another meeting just like this one. At that meeting, the public can comment. And so if any of you or if anyone that you know wants to come and comment on the contract, positively, negatively, neutral, whatever, you'll have the right to do that under the typical participation rules that we have for a board meeting. So that will most likely be early next week. That's the hope. So given that, we just want to talk about a few details. I'm going to hit some of the highlights of changes to the contract. If you haven't seen already, the contract is out on the website. I will apologize ahead of time. We had to hit a deadline and we put the really super rough copy up. If you looked at it, it's pretty hideous. We did get the cleaned up version. There are no language changes. It was simply cleaning up the columns and making it look a little more appropriate. That version is up today. So feel free to take a look at that, and so you'll better understand if you haven't what's being offered. You may also, if you're interested in and you aren't aware of what the current contract that teachers are working under, the 18-19 contract, it's also still posted, so you could potentially compare the two if you wish to do that. But tonight we'll be focusing on the new contract and some pieces of language and things that we've agreed to change for our teachers. So given that, fair enough, anything you'd like to add?
Sounds
so,
good.
To my left is Shannon Adams, who is the president of MCTA, and I apologize for not introducing her ahead of time. But you all know Shannon, so. So, first off, right off the top, let's talk about compensation, right? That's always the most fun thing, I think. And I want to get that right out front and make sure that our community and our board know what that's about. We, in essence, we're asking you as a board to commit to funding a raise for our teachers that is a salary adjustment to the salary scale of $2,000 for those employees who are eligible. And I'll talk about that eligibility in a minute, which is most of our employees. So a $2,000 increase to the base of the schedule that's currently out there, and then an additional raise of $1,000 for teachers who are eligible. When I say teachers who are eligible, those are teachers that have a rating of effective or highly effective. By state statute, we are not allowed to give any additional compensation to any teacher who doesn't meet that requirement. So anybody who is ineffective or needs improvement will not be receiving any additional compensation. The rest of the contract does apply to them, but the compensation portion cannot by statute. So I just want to make sure that's out there so there aren't any surprises. But for the majority of our staff, they will be receiving a pretty significant bump in pay, and we're pretty excited about that. Under state statute, we are required to, within the last 2 years, but specifically this year, do some really odd things in the language of the contract to demonstrate transparently exactly what we're doing and why we're doing what we're doing. And so if you sit down and read the contract and you look at some of these things, you go, well, this is obvious. Why is this here? We're required to put it there by statute. If it seems ridiculous and obvious, it's required by law, to be bluntly honest with you. There are a couple of provisions in there that refer to things like, the salary range was $37.5 to $67 and some change.
Yes.
And don't hold me to that. It's referring to what the range was before we started bargaining. That is a requirement of statute. It makes no sense because we're talking about new money and a new range that doesn't apply to that, but we had to put the old information in there. That's a requirement of the law. So it asks that as you look at that, just kind of keep that in the back of your mind as you're perusing through some of those components. We are required to basically slot everybody into a grid. So what we're asking the board tonight is approve a grid that shows that $2,000 and the $1,000 raise, how teachers will be slotted into that so that everyone understands how that's being determined. Those steps or those increments on that scale, I should say increments, and feel free to correct me at any point where I step in a pothole here. Each increment has to be equidistant between every other step or every other increment. So we can't like in past scales, have differences between those steps. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, we have teachers from previous contracts, particularly teachers who've been here for a number of years, who have a salary that doesn't end in 0 or 5. Doesn't end in 500 or 0, I guess I should say. So they don't naturally fit onto this new scale, and so we've had to make some adjustments to fit individuals onto the scale. And to fix that, because that then makes it unfair for some teachers getting a little bit less of a raise than other teachers potentially, or feeling like they're getting a little bit less of a step, we did make an arrangement to do a little bit of a stipend to adjust for that one time for that small handful of teachers. So we've worked really hard collectively. This is not my work or just Shannon's, but we have collectively worked really hard. A group of about 14 of us, I'd say, after it's all said and done, to really come up with a plan that we think is the most fair to the most people under the statute, to be quite honest. So all staff will be on the grid unless they happen to be one of the teachers that have that ineffective rating or needs improvement. That puts us in a really good position for next year when we start talking about bargaining for next year, because everybody will kind of be in the same situation. So if we move one teacher, everybody's moving in the same kind of way. Whereas right now, we got people all over the place that we're trying to fix. We are going to work really hard with our teachers, and this is going to take a lot of patience, to be quite honest, because it's going to require me to look at each teacher's transcript. We're going to work with teachers to identify teachers who possibly have earned a master's degree in their content area they're teaching, or a master's degree or advanced credit in a particular area that relates to a school of education. So in either of those instances, I believe we have teachers, I know that we have teachers who have not been compensated in the past for those situations. We're changing that moving forward. We won't retroactively go back. There's no way for us to possibly figure all of those scenarios out. But what we are committed to is fixing it moving forward. So we're going to make those changes. Again, I would ask for, if you're a teacher, anyone's patience in that process as we go forward. And I know I should be talking to the board here. I apologize, I keep forgetting. But we have a lot of teachers here, and I know this is important to them, and they want to know these explanations.
Jay, if I could.
Yeah, go ahead.
On the $2,000, I asked as many questions as I could of the representative from IRB. I asked them if we could do just 2,000 across the board for everyone, even those that weren't on the grid, and we couldn't do that and be compliant with the statute. There are certain percentages of money that have to be allocated based on a factor, something like education or your evaluation. And when you get out of sync on your percentages, it actually makes your contract non-compliant. So the way that we could be the most compliant and then be as equitable across the board as possible was to expand the grid, get everyone back on the grid, and then try to slot people in at the closest point possible to that $2,000 teacher catch-up salary increase that we implemented for the new hires and then those that were on the old grid. If that helps. We did try, and it just wasn't compliant. We did it that way.
Do you have other comments about just the compensation part, just the money I've missed?
I don't think so.
Questions you guys might have as the board about just the compensation part? I think if we just do this in chunks.
I guess my question is to Shannon Adams. You had a meeting last night, correct?
We did. We had two. We hold 2 sessions so that we can capture teachers based upon, since schools end at different times. Is that not on?
I got it.
Got it. Since schools end at different times, we hold 2 sessions, and we try to present the information exactly the same way to both groups of people. And I think we had... Overall response, I think, is really good. I think you can tell by the teachers in the audience that our people are very happy with this package. There are some questions, just figuring out how the new system works, and that's to be expected. But I feel like people were very appreciative. I think people feel really good about this contract, and I think the nodding heads and the smiles in the crowd confirm that. And I think this might be the largest amount of teachers we've had at like anything to do with a teacher contract since I've been teaching here. So I think people are very happy.
I know a lot of hard work went in between, with Jay and Shannon, a lot of extra hours to figure out how could be the best thing for all of you guys and to show how much you are appreciated. And I think it's amazing, and I appreciate their hard work.
I was going to echo Debbie's sentiments exactly. We've reviewed this and looked it over, and there are still some questions that we have. Financially, we can only compensate you so far. And I believe in the adage that teaching makes it all other professions possible, and we could never truly show our appreciation enough for each and every one of you.
Okay. I think, if I may, just add one additional piece, because I think it's sort of a burning question. I think I just want to get it out there regarding the, just how are we paying for this? I think that's a fair question, and I think it's a fair question of the community, and I think as a new superintendent, people deserve to know sort of how we're doing that. In previous meetings, we talked about one component of the funding for this coming from the TRF, the lowered amount that we have to pay into Teachers Retirement Fund, which was something that the legislative folks and the governor announced back in April, perhaps, that they were going to lower the percent that we paid into the pot by 2%, and they were going to offset that cost by paying that out of the surplus the state has. And so that gave us about $218,000 more than what we expected this year to be able to use toward bargaining. So that was one extra chip that we weren't thinking about. An additional piece is that our decline enrollment for this year was less, or for this September was significantly less than what we anticipated. That, again, is another chunk of money that we were not necessarily expecting 3, 4, 5 months ago to be here in October. That was certified in, I think, like October 8th, something like that, so it's been a few days ago. That was good news for us, and you want certified money, you don't want money that might be hanging out there. So we were excited about that piece. And then additionally, through the budgeting process, we had already budgeted anticipating on some dollars that we had left over from this year's budget and giving a raise anyway. And so that money was already out there. Of course, I couldn't disclose that early on because we weren't in a position to bargain publicly and talk about that. But those three sets of money all tied together are what are giving us the opportunity to fund this. I was very clear with the bargaining group, our side in MCTA, and will want to be very clear with everyone else. This is not something necessarily we're going to be able to do every year in the same way. It's something we're doing to catch us up. So this catches us up with some of our neighboring districts and gets us in a better position. It gets our starting pay for the district in a better spot so that as we're trying to attract teachers and retain those teachers, we're in a better spot to do so. So we're excited about all of those things. Of course, all those things come at a cost. I don't anticipate, unless we have a significant problem next year, us being able to maintain what we're agreeing to. But next year we'll have to, again, have tough conversations about, okay, what do we have next year to be able to do whatever it is that we have to do. But I just don't want to set something up where individuals believe that we have this money each year or that we will have this money each year. We might, I don't know. Keep rallying the legislature, that's all I have to say. Red for Ed, do what you have to do.
We are.
Because we're behind you too. This is not a one-sided thing. We believe in teachers, and I believe in teachers. We need to make sure that we're pressuring the people that make these decisions that public education is important. As a side note, and the board may be frustrated that I'm going to say this, but I'll be political for half a second. I'm typically not, or try not to be in public, but something that I'm very passionate about is public schools. Obviously, I'm the superintendent of a public school, and it's an amazing job to have. Yesterday, Dr. McCormick, or maybe 2 days ago, Dr. McCormick, the state superintendent of instruction, put out a little grid, and I tweeted it out yesterday. If you follow me, you might see it. It has two columns. The first column shows the top 20 school districts in Indiana in terms of their ADM and how much money they're getting per pupil. Top 20 schools. And then there was a column for the lowest paid 20 schools in the state of Indiana. The good news is we weren't in the top 20 or the low, I guess that's not good news, but we weren't in neither of those columns. We were in the middle, which is fine. Could be better, could be worse. What was very interesting to me is that those top 20 schools that are receiving the most money in the state of Indiana, one of those schools was a public school. 19 of the 20 were a charter or a private school. So the work that we're doing to try and support our teachers, we're doing based on the money that we have, and that money is not a never-ending pot. And to be quite honest, there's a continued pressure, it feels, for that money to be less and less each year. This is my opinion as a superintendent, and I'll probably get myself in hot water for saying this, but long story short, I believe in public education, and I think it's something that the public deserves to know that public schools are not being funded the same way that other schools are. And by the way, charter schools are public schools. I guess I should say traditional public schools.
Dr. Arthur?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
You're fine.
Another question I would have, and this, the board has an understanding, the teachers have an understanding, but this is coming from the viewpoint that our constituents may have of a question. One thing you mentioned briefly was retirement funding.
Yep.
Could you discuss maybe for the community how the teachers' retirement is funded, please?
Yeah, so Steve, I believe you're talking about the TRF
Yes.
version, or the TRF
Yes.
part. So TRF is funded in multiple ways. It's funded by actual teacher salary that teachers pay into the fund. It comes out of their paycheck. The district is paying a significant portion of that, and then the state pays into that pension as well. So you have three funding sources that are funding teacher pensions through TRF, and so that's why they were able to make a little bit of an adjustment and to be able to make a political statement that we believe in teachers and we're giving more money to teachers this last year. Yeah, you always are appreciative of any extra money, so I don't want to send a message that we're not appreciative, and for our legislature that voted for those things and were supportive of that change, I'm appreciative of. My hope is just that we continue down that track and we continue to do those same things.
Thank you.
Back to your comment you made, Dr. Arthur, you don't have to apologize.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll typically keep those to myself, but it's just something I'm very passionate about. It's hard to look at that and do the work and know the work that's being done, but it not necessarily always being honored. And it's pretty easy when you start looking at evaluative information about school districts that public schools are by far out serving kids, or by far serving more kids at a higher rate than some of those schools are. I'll put that to rest for now. Thank you for hearing that. A couple of other things that were significant changes. So those that elected to move to an HSA high deductible plan for insurance this year, we are giving those employees $1,000 if you're on the employee-only program, $1,500 if you're on the employee spouse and employee child program, either one of those, or you're carrying the family insurance plan, that's a $2,000 HSA contribution. Those will be paid out if this is approved, I believe by the end of the school year. Is that what I recall?
Fiscal year.
End of the fiscal year. And so we'll work diligently to get those funds where they need to be for everyone. Those do require folks to open HSA accounts, and so we're hopeful that if they don't have an HSA account, they get that done pretty quickly so that we can be certain that we're funding that as promptly as possible.
And Dr. Arthur, that was for every teacher that if they moved to an HSA or they had an existing
Yes.
HSA insurance policy.
Yes, so it wasn't just the people who moved this November, or October, or whenever the enrollment window was. This is for anybody who is on an HSA plan this school year. You will be, or a high deductible plan, you will be receiving one of those stipends into your HSA account. I shouldn't call it a stipend. That amount into your HSA account. Questions anyone has? Okay. VEBA and 403B match, just a little bit of a historical piece. Traditionally in this district, as far back as I was able to see, with the exception of last year, we have kept a fairly regular matching program for annuities, which is basically private retirement, and VEBA, sort of a health plan that's out there. And so last year there was a decision made to bargain out for new teachers the VEBA piece, so that was not available to teachers last year that were hired, and so they were losing that 1%. Everyone else kept it because if you were here, you were grandfathered, but new teachers were not given that. And additionally, teachers who were here have been getting a 3% match on their 403B, and for teachers that were hired in last year, they only received a 2% match. And so, again, to equalize things, we were bringing everybody up to the same number. Everybody will be 1% on VEBA, everyone will be 3% on their annuity match. What that means is you have to put that much money in there if you want that much money. So it truly is a matching program. If you don't elect not to do it, that's up to you, but that's another benefit the district's offering to do that 3% match for all of our employees. Again, we think that's a really good way to balance things and send the message to everyone that we equally care about our teachers.
If I could, on the VIBA and the 403 match, not all districts, but some districts used a bit of a game where they kind of played with the money and they took away VIBA and retirement matches to try to raise their starting salaries or their salaries. And that is something that in Martinsville, we just weren't a fan of that historically. And so just as a note to our teachers and so that the board knows that we are taking care of our teachers beyond the yearly salary. We're investing in those teachers as their life goes on and as they choose to maybe make changes later on in life. There are protections in there for insurance policies because of that and retirement. And so I think it's a real carrot or a feather, I should say, in Martinsville's cap that we continue to take care of retirement-related issues where some districts have chosen to not do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Retirement incentives, so we'll shift to that, unless you guys have any last questions on VIBA or 403B. Retirement incentive, we are going to offer 5 $10,000 retirement incentives to folks who are retirement eligible at the end of the school year. There are some requirements to meet that, but they're pretty simple. You have to finish the school year. You can't retire early. We are doing that based on time stamping, so we've got a whole process in the contract by which we will offer this to people in case there are additional people that beyond the 5 that are interested. So we'll take those first come, first serve. And what that does is that, honestly, it is a great incentive to give to somebody who's ready to hang up the towel and do the next thing in life. It's also a great incentive for us to lower our costs, our overall pool costs for teachers. And then rather than spending that $70,000 per teacher, we then typically are hiring somebody who's at a lower cost. And so that helps us with sort of being able to maintain this program or maintain our salary and our compensation model into future years. I should have said this on the front end because I've probably been the most passionate about making sure everyone understood this. The school district did this is not a negative thing, we just did not propose this. This was not the school district saying, we need 5 teachers to retire. When it came to us, it actually came from, I believe, a teacher requesting through MCTA to ask us to do this, and we were perfectly willing. I mean, obviously it helps everyone. Why would we say no? And if everyone's happy and it helps the district, absolutely. But we're not looking to lose great teachers. That is not, I want to be clear that we don't send that message. So yes, we talked a lot about this and we bargained it and it's where we landed, but I think it was more about honoring a couple of teachers' requests and less about us trying to save money in this particular area.
That is a completely accurate statement. That is completely accurate. MCTA brought that as a result of teacher questions or requests on that item. And when we discussed that at bargaining, one of the first things that both the assistant superintendent and the superintendent said was, we don't want people to think that we don't want them in our district. And I said, no, people asked me to bring this. And so that was teacher request based.
If I may also, we point out, and I think we've pretty well done that, but this will not be a requirement of any of our employees. I mean, we're not going to force anybody out. You know, this is certainly, as Dr. Arthur alluded to, an incentive for those who are qualified and choose to take it.
As a part of that, if folks are interested in that, we will allow that. That will be will be compensation. Basically, it will appear as compensation, but they can elect to put that into 403B or an HSA or anything that they're eligible to put that money into legally. So whatever statute allows us to help them do with that money, we're willing to do that. Questions anyone might have about those things? Shannon, do you have any additional items? I don't really.
I don't, other than I feel like the process was really collaborative. I felt like the team worked really well together. I felt good about it from day one, to be very honest. And I'm just very appreciative of how I think just how wonderfully well we all work together.
I would agree. I would echo that same message. And again, thank you to the bargaining team and thank you to our district administration team. And we're going to have another opportunity to do this, and I will personally thank each one of those at that time so that you know who they are.
Dr. Arthur?
Yes.
Just kind of let people know, how does our district rate in the county, maybe extended out of Morgan County surrounding schools? Maybe the schools in the Mid-State Conference?
In terms of where we're going to land after this contract?
Yes.
Actually, I'll give full credit to Shannon. She did most of the homework on looking at the schools around us and where they come in terms of their starting salary, their median salary. We also looked at that as a piece of data, and I'm not sure I shared that with you guys, but we did also Shannon charted out the median salaries of all those, of about 10, 12 school districts in the area. We looked at ones that are in our conference. We looked at ones that were because not everyone in our conference is our size. We also looked at ones outside of our conference who are close to our size and our demographic. And what we found, or what Shannon found, again, giving you full credit, is that a number of those schools were either neutral or better than us going into bargaining. And so what we believe is that this puts us at a neutral level and in some places in a better spot than the districts that are around us. So again, we're proud of that, and we think that that will help us attract teachers that maybe at the last minute, when they had an option between here and somewhere else at the last minute, they may have taken a different option because of $500 or $1,000. So yeah.
Thank you.
No?
Just a last comment. It's not really a question, but I'm a little overwhelmed as I look out here in the audience and I see all the great reasons that our school district is so awesome. And, you know, you hear about the charter and the private, but parents have choices. And we make a choice to give you our kids every day for 180 plus days. And so, you know, that says a lot about our parents and who we are and how much we do appreciate you. And I come from a long line of PTO, and I know we try to show teachers how much we appreciate them, and it kind of competes during Appreciation Week. And getting on the board, I just have to tell you that we got this contract the same time the public did. For those that weren't on the committee, you know, there's all these rules and regulations about what can be seen and told. And so we just spent a couple of hours staring at a board with a lot of numbers on them. So I look out here and I can see people looking and thinking, where's the board thinking about this? And you know, we do greatly appreciate all of you. I have numbers running in my head so bad. I need to talk to Mr. Dean so he can teach me math again. But it just is overwhelming, but we also have to be good stewards of the money. That's what we were elected to do. And so I just need everyone to know we're not taking anything lightly or for granted or anything. We are deep in thought. We did just get presented the package tonight, so let this face just show you it's a shocked face, just because the words and just having to go over contract is sometimes exhausting. But you are greatly appreciated. It is a lot to go through, but you're just greatly appreciated, and we do appreciate all the work. This is not PTO where I just give you a cookie and a thank you, but you are all greatly appreciated. So thanks for.
Anyone else? Comments or questions? I think we're in pretty good shape. I'm going to propose, assuming all the pieces work out, and we'll have to kind of play it by ear, that we would come back together on Tuesday evening for a vote of the board. And again, that would be a public comment meeting. So we'll take public comment before, and then any discussion that you all might have or any questions I can answer for you. We won't be answering, well, actually we will be. It will be a question and answer session for the public. But long story short, at the end of that, I will probably be asking you to vote on the contract, assuming things go well. And then hopefully we have a contract.
6:30.
At 6:30 on Tuesday evening. That's the plan. If that changes, obviously, we'll put notice out to show something different. But those notices will be posted, of course, in the appropriate time frame. So we meet the statute. And that will be here in this building. Any last minute or last thoughts? Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
At this
Shannon.
point, I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Lips so that she can resume the board meeting.
Lengthy board meeting.
This is not going to take a whole lot of time. I think this will be a lot shorter than what you just went through. So it's kind of like a class. You're close to the end. This meeting is a meeting of the school board in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. Opportunities for public participation will be permitted in accordance with policy 167.3. We have no public comments regarding agenda items, so we're going to move right into the consent agenda. So I will ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second, please.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. We have no student field trips or professional travel, but other business, we have a lot of donations. Do you want to go through the
Sure. Yep. It's my favorite part. I always love the donations. So donations that we're receiving and asking the board for approval for, $1,866.29 to Paragon from Paragon PTO for the music instruments, $800 to Martinsville High School Athletics from Super Sports, thank you, $1,750 to Martinsville High School Athletics from Sheila and Michelle Realty, thank you, $500 to Martinsville High School Boys Soccer from Mad Men Wrestling, thank you, $1,000 to Martinsville High School Athletics from Duke Energy, thank you. Duke Energy is on every month's donation list, I'm just telling you, so they are very supportive of our school district. $800 to Martinsville High School Athletics from Subway on Ohio Street, thank you. $600 to Brooklyn STEM PTO for robotics from Community Chrysler of Bloomington.
I ask for a motion to accept the donations and grants as requested.
I move to accept the donations and grants.
Second, please.
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. We now have our superintendent's report.
It's going to be quick and short. Just want to say a quick thanks to my team here in this building and our district administrators for all their work in supporting me and our office while we've been contract negotiating. So thank you very much. That's been very helpful and very appreciated. Hope everyone had a great fall break, and now we're looking at Thanksgiving's right around the corner, and so this is the rush to kind of get as much in as we can and then have some time off. So hope everyone had a great fall break, and look forward to seeing as many of you as wish to come on Tuesday to ratify the contract. That's all I have.
And now we will go to board member comments. I always like to stand up because this is the favorite part. This is the time of the meeting where we talk about some of the neat things that are going on in our school system. And notice I said some, because there's a lot more than what we have. Congratulations to the MHS girls cross-country team who qualified for regionals. They have one member going to state. That's Elena Borzella. I hope I have her name right. Will be competing at state on Saturday. Good luck to Elena.
All right, also MHS boys cross-country team had 3 members compete at regionals: Carson Heath, David Edwelton, and Griffin Warzella. Carson Heath will be competing at state on Saturday. Good luck, Carson.
Congratulations to the MHS Marching Artesians for advancing to the ISSMA State Finals. They will be competing at state on Saturday at Lawrence Central at 4:15. Good luck, Marching Artesians. Do follow them. They've been rocking it. And they also have a fundraiser on Tuesday, October 29th. It's a chili dinner, and I believe you get to go out and march with them. I would give you the details, but my phone just died, so they sent it to me. But check Facebook and check everything, but they have been doing phenomenal.
The DECA and BPA clubs are having their annual Safe Trick or Treat event at Martinsville High School this coming Saturday, October 26th, from 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 7 o'clock in the evening. Please enter the front door. It's a lot of fun. If you've been to this, you know it's a great event. We have a lot of turnout, a lot of kids show up. So again, that's this Saturday from 4 to 7.
And congratulations and a great job to all the Artesian fall teams who have competed this season and are still competing. We are so proud of you and how you are representing MHS. And it's great to be an Artesian.
Thank you. Our next meeting, other than the Tuesday meeting for voting on the contract, Our next regular school board meeting is scheduled for November 21st at 6:30 PM at the CEC. So I ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second, please.
I second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you so very much for coming. We greatly appreciate it. And I love the smiles on your faces, teachers.